The Raptors made it clear this summer that they still want this team to be competitive. So what will determine success this season and how can they achieve it? Let's get into it. Welcome to Amateur Hour Sports, where it is all Toronto Raptors all the time in videos, live streams, and shorts. So if you like what you see from today's video, then make sure you're subscribed to the channel to keep up to date with all of those uploads, and drop a like as well if you did enjoy, because it helps us get on some more YouTube recommended pages. Now, this is the final video that is getting released while I am on vacation. I left for my vacation on October 6th, recorded this video on October 5th. The importance of that is anything significant that happened to the team between October 5th and the date this is getting released, October 16th, I am aware of as a person in front of the camera, but you may be aware of as a viewer. But because we're going through the determination of success for the Raptors this season and how the team can go out and execute it, I don't imagine there's going to have been any significant changes that will deter what I'm going to say in this video, because the Raptors are going into an uncertain season where, yes, there's been a lot of negativity on this channel for myself in the last couple of weeks because I really have not been happy with the front office. I really have not been happy with the overall direction and vision of this team. But nonetheless, this team is going into a new NBA season with some excitement. There are some good things that you can look forward to as far as individual development, organizational growth, and having a rookie head coach. We really want to see what he has. And what's kind of nice for the players and for the coaching staff going into this season is that they completely understand what the task is and what the job is. The Raptors traded away their 2024 first-round pick to the San Antonio Spurs at the 2023 NBA trade deadline. Therefore, there's no safety net, which kind of isn't good from an organizational standpoint, but from a player standpoint, coaching standpoint, the goal is clear. The vision is clear. You are going out there on the floor to win as many games as possible this season. So we need to understand exactly what can be the expectation for success and what would be a failure of a season as well for the Raptors. And there's two different categories where you can find those sort of measurements. You can find the on-court stuff. That is going to be very important, but the off-court stuff is equally going to be as important to the team based on how poor the off-court stuff was for the team last year. It really felt like last year had just such a bad vibe to it throughout the year, and we definitely needed a reset. We definitely need a culture change, and that was something that was addressed by the players and Darko Rajakovic as well, the head coach, at Media Day a couple of weeks ago now at the time of you viewing this video. But regardless, people understand within the organization that a change needed to happen, and I don't think there was a better way to reset the team than to lose the head coach, fire the head coach and Nick Nurse, and you kind of got additional bit of that culture change by losing the driving force, maybe the heartbeat of this team, in Fred VanVleet, although the way kind of people were speaking about Fred VanVleet around that media day, maybe it could be considered for the better that he is no longer with the team. We can have an even bigger fresh start for this organization. So I think the off-court stuff is going to be very important here because we just want to see the good vibes come back to this team. We know that we're not a team that's going to make a deep playoff run this year. We don't expect to be one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, but we do expect to enjoy the basketball a bit more. Masai Ujiri said at the end of the previous season that he did not enjoy watching this team, and I think that's something that really spilled over into the fan base as well. I wouldn't necessarily call it a chore watching this team. I enjoy watching basketball. I enjoy watching the Toronto Raptors, but it wasn't as fun as it should have been. Watching basketball is enjoyment. It's not a job. I don't do amateur sports content because it's a job. Sure, it helps a little bit on the side of my day job, but I'm doing this out of the fun. I enjoy doing this. It's entertaining for myself to do it. And I'm so grateful that you guys find me entertaining enough to subscribe and watch the channel. But I want to see an even greater level of enjoyment and fun coming from the team. And I think if they're enjoying themselves on the court, I'm going to enjoy watching it. And Darko Rajakovic, so far, all signs are pointing towards him having really tried to instill that different culture and a bigger enjoyment of the game of basketball. Now, at the time that I'm releasing this, you have seen two preseason games. There was that game against the Kings and the game against that Australian team, the, oh boy, Cairns Taipans, if that's how you say it. So hopefully we saw some good strides towards making that happen. I don't know what sort of team was out on the court against the Australian team at the Scotiabank Arena, but hopefully we've made strides into rectifying the off-court issues that plagued the team last season. I want everybody on the team to be on the same page and everybody to be playing and fighting for each other and fighting for the coach, buying into the coach. I am very much bought into the offensive mind that we've brought in here in Darko Rajakovic and the developmental minds that we brought in throughout the entire coaching staff. I hope everybody is bought in and excited to play Raptors basketball this season. But that's only really half of the battle, if even half of the battle, because we do want to see success on the court as well. Last season, the Raptors finished with a 41-41 record, and it still feels like a bit of an underachievement for a team that has only had one losing season in the last decade, and that is the only losing season was the season where every single home game was played in Tampa Bay in the COVID season. That's pretty damn impressive, and we have some pretty high standards for this team. And honestly, sometimes it feels like we're getting a little bit greedy. Like we did just have a championship 4 years ago, and like I said, only one losing season in the last 10 years. Like, that is quite a remarkable achievement, but we still want to see success out there. We're not just going to go and say, well, we did all this. Like, we want to continue to build. We want to continue to find success on the court. So how are we actually going to be able to do that? With a different point guard in place, I'm imagining Dennis Schroder is the starting point guard for this team. Darko didn't exactly explicitly say it was going to be Dennis. They're still having some conversations about that. Regardless, I think Dennis Schroder will be the starter. It will be three forwards in the lineup in Scottie Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby, along with Jakob Poeltl at the 5. They could go a different direction, have Scottie Barnes at the 1. Then you have Gary Trent Jr. shooting in, coming at the 2, along with Anunoby, Siakam, and Poeltl rounding out the starting 5. But whoever the starting 5 is, we're likely going to see a much more team-oriented game. It's going to be completely opposite of Nick Nurse's isolation-driven offense, and we are going to see pick and roll sets. We're going to see playmaking sets. And I want to see a lot more off-ball cuts being utilized for Siakam to score on the inside and Barnes to score on the inside. We know Siakam is good enough to score 24 points per game in isolation, but let's make that job even easier and get him those easy lanes on the inside, or the easier lanes on the inside. And if we have Barnes initiating the offensive point guard, so be it. We could have that. I would rather go with more traditional point guard in that role and go with Dennis Schroder at this point. I've kind of 180'd on my take early in the season. I want to prioritize shooting. I have Gary Trent there. I want to have more of that playmaking guy there and more of a pick and roll threat in Dennis Schroder. And then when Dennis Schroder's off the floor, Scottie Barnes runs the offense. And even in some sets where Schroder and Barnes are on the floor together, you can have Barnes initiate the offense. But in the half-court sets, I really want to see how this team can tick with Dennis Schroder out there. So for the success metrics, we want to see the on-court product in terms of winning. We want to see wins put on the board, but it's not just as easy as finding wins. It's about the players playing up to the levels that we expect of them. We want to see improvements and strides taken in Scottie Barnes' game, which we didn't see in his sophomore season. We want to see new levels of Pascal Siakam, who is good enough to be an NBA All-Star this season and make an All-NBA team this season. We want to see strides taken with Jakob Poeltl, who is just starting his 4-year contract, and we really want to see strides with Dennis Schroder coming into a season after having a few years where he's been in the back seat in that sort of role. He's had a few years at the Lakers, 2 different spells with the Lakers where playing behind LeBron and AD, tough to get the ball there. Playing in Boston behind a plethora of great players, tough to get the ball there. Well, now he's going to have the ball plenty. And we saw what Schroder can do with the ball in his hands plenty at the FIBA World Cup, where he was the MVP of the tournament, leading Germany to their first ever World Cup title. All of these individual metrics of success, you can even loop in OG Anunoby to that, and Gary Trent, who I think is going to benefit big time by these new offensive schemes. If we're seeing these individual growth sort of seasons for a team that is not old by any means, like you've got realistically 5, 6, 7, you could even go further, 8, 9 players who we could all expect to improve this season as individuals. And if we're getting that individual development that this coaching staff, which has clearly been placed with the idea of developing these players in mind, if we're seeing all of that individual growth and development and that growth together as a team, that should translate to wins on the court. How many wins will that be? It's tough for me to say that this is going to be a team that finishes above the 7th or 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. If everything clicks, if everything is working, probably give this as a ceiling as a 5th or a 6th seed. It's unfortunate to say, realistically. I'd be pretty content with this team finishing like as it is as a 7th or 8th seed. I'd be unhappy if we finished there in the sense that the organization has let us become this mediocre, middling sort of team. But based on the roster in place, it's not the players' fault that the front office has done what it's done. The team in place, I would consider it a successful season, if they make the playoffs. If that comes through the play-in tournament, then so be it. But this team is out there to be competitive, and I think what we're in for is a fun season. I'm not expecting the world here. I'm not expecting a lot of failure either here. I'm expecting decent success, and I'm expecting growth with the players. And if that happens, I can be happy and really start to enjoy my Toronto Raptors basketball again. So the season will be a failure if the culture change is not addressed, the players aren't enjoying playing basketball, and the season will be a failure if we don't see significant individual growth amongst the players. And if we have both of those things failing, this team will not win games. It will fall into obscurity in the league, but it won't be bad enough that the top 6 protection on that San Antonio Spurs pick we sent out at the 2023 NBA trade deadline will come into play. And that would be the biggest mistake of all. What do you guys make of this Raptors season? How far do you think they'll go? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. That is it for me for today. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to Amateur Sports for more videos just like this. And with me coming back from vacation, we have some reactions coming up to the Raptors preseason, and we're about to start the regular season. There's no better time to join the Amateur Army. I'll see you again very soon.